Welcome to Unlocking Your Truth, another podcast by Dr. Leslie Phillips.
Hello everybody, welcome to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie. My name is Dr. Leslie Phillips and I am your host. And Unlocking Your Truth is a show all about metaphysics and spirituality. So every week we have a different topic. Now, around about this time last year, we did a show on the true meaning of Christmas, the symbolic meaning of Christmas. And so we wanted to do another seasonal show, a show with a seasonal theme. And so this year, tonight, we're going to talk about the winter solstice. But you might want to go check out the true meaning of Christmas around about this time a year ago in the podcasts on civl.ca for Unlocking Your Truth. So tonight it's all about the winter solstice and the spiritual significance or the deeper spiritual meaning or associations of human beings with the winter solstice. And of course, later on we'll be taking your calls, so stand by for that. So let's start by just defining what is the winter solstice. So the winter solstice is an astronomical event when the Earth tilts to a position where the northern hemisphere, in our case, is furthest away from the sun, and that causes less light to reach that particular region of the planet. And so the winter solstice can be on the 21st of December or a day either side, and this year it happens to fall on the 21st of December, but some days it can be some days. Some years it can be on a different day.
You know, I always thought the winter solstice here in Vancouver, that's what happens on the Trans-Canada when it snows.
Did you?
Winter solstice.
Oh, winter solstice. Oh, very funny.
She actually does laugh at my jokes sometimes.
Sometimes. Yeah, and it's the time actually the sun appears to stand still in the sky and then reverse its direction, and so what's the spiritual significance of all of this?
Oh, 1 second here. Stand still in the sky and then reverses its direction?
It appears to. Seems to.
Are you saying it no longer rises in the east and sets in the west? It stops and goes the other way?
I'm saying that I believe that there's a point in time where it appears to be not moving. Appears to be. On the winter solstice. I mean, you correct me if you think I'm wrong, but that's what my understanding is. Well, I tell you what, people Google it.
What it is there's an east to west movement of the sun every day, because the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. What this is, if you notice the sun, it moves, it looks like it goes southward during the fall and winter, up until the solstice, then starts moving back this way as it travels across.
Right. But there's still a point at which that direction changes.
Yeah, it stops from moving.
Right.
It doesn't stop from going east to west. It just stops from its southerly direction. Right. So it basically goes, and then it starts coming back to a higher in the sky.
Yeah, so it appears to stand still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Everyone's going to be outside going,
no, they're not. God.
I would have.
All right. Anyway, so
yes.
What we'd really rather be talking about is the deeper spiritual meaning of this, and so of course for ancient people they were very close to the cycles of nature, and the solstice it was a significant part of that because it is the midpoint. It is the point at which they've been going into deeper and deeper darkness, that starts to turn around. And it made me think about the spiral of life, and it made me think about the labyrinth, and going on a journey in a labyrinth where you walk from the outside into the center of the labyrinth, and that signifies an inner journey into yourself. So it's almost like the darker and darker days and the longer and longer nights, everybody gets, at least in traditional times, quieter and more time to go within. And then at the point that the solstice, and reflect on their life and reflect on the year that's just passed. And then the solstice is the midpoint, which starts to turn around, and then people start to emerge back into the light. And so the celebration of the solstices is probably the oldest seasonal festival of humankind. I think that all cultures throughout the globe celebrate the solstices. At least the northern and southern hemisphere, they celebrate the solstices. And so I thought that I'd talk about sort of some of the ancient rituals and beliefs that survive today around the solstices. And there are so many of them that I thought perhaps I'd focus on. The more... so Corey's waving at me. He wants to say something.
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, go on then.
Before we even get into that, do the solstices? I never checked this. Do the solstices run right across all the religious beliefs, or is it more paganistic or more worldly?
I think it's a global thing.
Yeah, the science of it. Yes. I understand the science is global, but...
Well, I found evidence of solstice celebrations in the Asian tradition, in the Native American tradition, in the European tradition, in the Australian Aboriginal tradition. And so I would say that pretty much all cultures around the world had rituals and celebrations at this time of year,
including different religions as well, such as Christians or.
So the Christian religion ended up putting a lot of its celebrations on top of the pagan religions, I believe so. And I was reading up a little bit about that today, but I decided not to talk about it, so I can't really remember what I read. But I know that there's, I think it's St. Thomas, it's the celebration of St. Thomas is also on the same day as the winter solstice. And that was Doubting Thomas who doubted the resurrection of Christ. And that symbolism is in alignment with the pagan symbolism where it's about renewal and rebirth of the sun. And so yeah, the Christian religion is a younger religion compared to some of the ancient traditions, but they superimposed their celebrations on top of the pagan ones so that more people could feel comfortable moving into that religion at the time.
Political.
Yeah, political. But anyway, like I said, I found there was so much information on it. I thought I'd sort of stick around the area of the ancient Druids.
Ooh.
Because, of course, the most famous place to celebrate the winter solstice that people might think about is actually Stonehenge in Britain. And actually, Stonehenge is it actually has two alignments. One alignment is for the summer solstice and the other is for the winter solstice, and the main one is for the summer solstice, although the modern day Druids do still go there today to celebrate the winter solstice.
They're not allowed right on site, are they?
They are for the solstices. Yeah, they make an exception on that day, and they do. And apparently, a couple of years ago, they all turned up on the wrong day. They calculated it wrong, but the National Trust still took pity on them and still let them in.
Poor Druids.
Yeah, but there's a place in Ireland called Newgrange, and it's a Neolithic tomb and temple structure in the valley of the Boyne River in Ireland, and that has a winter solstice alignment, and that's a very famous one, and it is older. They believe it's older than the pyramids in Egypt, so it's a very, very ancient site. And when the sun on the winter solstice reaches a certain angle, the light shines through a special window in that tomb and shines along a 17-meter long passageway and then falls onto a big stone where there's a carving of a threefold spiral on the stone. So celebrating the winter solstice is a very ancient indeed. And the Druid name, or the Gaelic name for the winter solstice, is Alban Arthan. And in Welsh, that translates to the light of winter. But there are also other translations of it, because the word Arthan also translates to be, it's Gaelic for bear. And so the bear is the same is a constellation in the sky, also known as the plough, which I believe is significant in terms of its positioning in the sky at the time of the solstice. And then another translation of it is it's the light of Arthur, and then to the ancient legend of Arthur Pendragon, who just like Christ and Horus and Mithras and so many of those legendary characters, represents the whole myth of Arthur is that he dies and he's reborn, and that at present he is sleeping under a mountain and he will return when the people need him. So it's the same as the myth of some of the other ancient myths, and also the same as the story of Jesus.
Well, Arthur, we need you.
Yeah, but anyway, the central concept of any winter solstice celebration is it's the theme of renewal, the theme of death and rebirth, and that's pretty much what it is in all the cultures that celebrate it. About leaving the past behind and greeting the new, reflecting on your life so far or the year so far, and letting go of what you need to go of, and allowing in the new, or beckoning in the new. And it's also a great time, as well as reflecting on the year gone by, and being introspective, to also think about the meaning of the sun. Because the sun is a symbol of the manifestation of the divine principle in all life, really. And everything on our planet is our entire solar system revolves around the sun. And, it's vital to our existence. It's vital to the growth of all plants and the existence of all living beings. I mean, in spite of all our modern technology, we are still dependent on the sun. And of course, the sun is also symbolizes God, the divine principle, and the alignment of the sun, the personal alignment with God. Anyway, I was also interested to read about some other rituals that some still practiced and some really being lost. One of them is the Yule log, which is one of the main traditional. Now, people these days eat a chocolate log, I think, but
Yeah.
but originally, what it used to be across Northern Europe is it wasn't just a log. In some cases, it was an entire tree, and you would go and get this entire big tree and put one end of it in your fireplace, and gradually over time, through the winter, you would burn that Yule log. And they actually kept the ashes of the Yule log, and they, in the spring when they sowed the seeds, they mixed them with the ashes of the Yule log, so that the power of the sun, which was symbolized in the Yule log, is distributed over the land and nourishing the new growth. And they also used to keep a piece of the Yule log from one year to light the new Yule log of the following year. So it symbolizes everlasting life, and it symbolizes renewal, and it actually symbolizes, in a way, I would say, reincarnation, the passing on of the light of consciousness, from new beginning to new ending to new beginning to new ending. So there's very, very deep meaning and symbolism in that practice of burning the Yule log. And another one, which I don't know whether people in Canada are familiar with, and there's still a vague tradition left of it in the UK, not very strongly, but something called wassailing.
Mm-hmm.
And traditionally people would go from door to door singing and offering a drink from the wassailing cup.
It's called, the pronunciation, the way we pronounce it here is wassailing.
Wassailing. And yes, and the translation of that word means to be in good health. So you're going and wishing people to be in good health. And they actually used to go into the orchards and wassail to the trees in the orchard. So they didn't just used to go from house to house. They actually used to go to the orchards, and it's a form of blessing for the new year, recite incantations and sing the fruit trees to induce them to bear fruit.
I'm surprised in England they didn't call it what's this here ale?
What's this here ailing? Yeah. So here's one of the traditional chants. It says, wassail the trees that they may bear, you many a plum and many a pear. For more or less fruits they will bring, as you give them wassailing.
Interesting.
It is. And I kind of wondered to myself, the ancient Druids were the ancient caste of priests in Britain and Wales and France and Ireland. And it just made me think, their tradition was an oral tradition, and their teachings were delivered in verse. And it kind of made me think about, the Buddhist monks these days, that people give them food, right? So they don't earn a living. People give them food in exchange for a blessing and so on. And I wondered whether that's what the ancient Druids used to do, go around with that and give blessings in exchange for gifts, and whether that's where the very origins of that came from.
Well, I think that holds true with all religious sects. The priests did the same too. The priests never used to get money from anywhere but their parishioners. All the different sects would do it that way. So I presume the Druids would as well.
Yes, yeah. Anyway,
interesting. That's interesting.
It is, yeah.
Just as a quick aside to that, like the wassailing, it shows how peoples in the past had a desire to share emotional connections with each other at times like this. Like the summer solstice, and they would bond a little bit. I was out today and I wished like 3 people a Merry Christmas. I didn't get one Merry Christmas back. It was kind of interesting.
Yeah. I'm going to go to a break, and maybe we'll just keep talking a little bit after the break. But it's actually the time's gone fast. So we're going to go to a break, folks, and then we'll be back. And, we're talking about the sort of winter solstice tradition, perhaps in the more Gaelic Celtic cultures. Hello everyone, welcome back to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie. So this evening we have been talking about the winter solstice because we're one day away from the longest day of the year, and talking about different cultures and ancient traditions of celebrating the winter solstice. And before the break we were talking about what I pronounce wassailing and Corius pronounces wassailing. And you know, there's a similar tradition to that, which is called mummering or jannying. And in that tradition in the UK, people disguise themselves with masks, and not everyone does. I mean, not everyone does it. It's a very old thing that just remnants of people do. But they used to do it in the Middle Ages, and groups of people would travel from house to house in disguise and perform plays and dance and music and recite poetry, and the people would have to guess who they were by asking them questions. And then if they guessed who they were, they would take off their masks. And
these days you just get poked on Facebook.
Yeah, and there's different versions of this across Europe, actually, because I think it's in Germany they do a version of it where they pretend to kidnap people, masked men.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and so what else? Evergreens and the different decorating your house with evergreen branches, which we all still do, don't we, at Christmas? We like the evergreens strewn around the house.
That's a winter solstice thing? Yeah?
Well, apparently it is, because it reminds us of the promise that nature's going to be green again in the springtime. And in Ireland, they actually used to do it so that there was a place of refuge for the nature spirits to rest and flee from the cold and darkness and the harsh conditions outside. Which is kind of cute, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's all except for the unicorn, but I think that's great.
Yeah, and I was also in the sort of Druid tradition, there's the Holly King and the Oak King, and the perpetual battle between the Holly King and the Oak King. And the Oak King is the god of the waxing light, or the divine child, and the Holly King is the god of the waning light, or the dark lord. So there's this battle between the dark lord and the divine child. And each year at the winter solstice, the Oak King wins the battle and rules until he's defeated by the Holly King at the time of the summer solstice.
My gosh, what a life that would be!
but you know what that is? That's a teaching about yin and yang.
Yeah.
Basically, it's the Druid version of that. You know, there are other deities that are relevant to the winter solstice. So Bridget and Dagda. And Bridget is the bearer of the flame of light, which penetrates the darkness. And Dagda has a cauldron, which symbolizes the dark womb, the potency, the potential, the incubation that happens in the winter. And it's the same thing, one giving way to the other. And Bridget's an example of a pagan deity that became a saint. You were asking earlier about the Christian thing. A lot of the pagan deities got turned into Christian saints around the time that the Christian religion. Bridget's an example. Saint Bridget. She's originally Bridget's a pagan deity.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You taught me something new today.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And incense, apparently, that's a tradition. Again, because I guess renewal, it's like ridding yourself of the old energies and cleaning and doing a purification ritual.
We used to do, one of the things I did for a while was we would celebrate with a candle lighting service, which was a lot of fun.
Right, a candle lighting ceremony, exactly. Yeah, that's another one that people do at this time of year. create labyrinths and labyrinths made of candles and extension 4142, or write to info@drlesliephillips.com. And I don't know if we've got any relevant questions around this, Corey.
No. But also, if you have any, not just winter solstice or summer solstice, but if you got any Christmas things you'd like to talk about too, being that this is the last show before the Christmas holidays.
Yeah.
Which we'll be taking, just so we can let everyone know, so we don't forget, this will be taking 2 weeks, but there will be a show, but it was a pre-recorded show.
And actually, it's
going to be a good one.
It's a special pre-recorded show. It's a really great pre-recorded show. We've got it in part 1 and part 2, and it's an interview I did with Aditya J. Kumar of My Seven Chakras, and he interviewed me at length about the myths that people believe about intuition. So it's 2 shows on myth busting, and they're really great. And there's actually a free gift involved, a free book that you can download. So
I was going to mention that last week.
Yeah.
We'd give all our listeners that new book. And it's a new book, by the way.
Well, this is a different new book to the new book you're thinking of.
Oh, it's a different new book to the new book I was thinking about.
Yeah. This one's about the 7 most common myths about intuition, and and you can find if
you didn't have me edit that one.
No, I didn't, did I?
Gee, I feel left out now.
Yeah, but that one you can find the link where you can download that if you listen in next week and or the week after.
Yes. Peter says yes.
So give us a question then.
Why is the sky blue? Did you have a question from one of our listeners?
Yes, please.
Okay.
That would be good.
We do have some of those. And the first one I have actually 2 or 3 of these, but I don't think we'll get to all of these ones. Hi, Dr. Leslie. I have a romance question. I'm in a relationship that has really deteriorated over the years. Is it in my highest and best interest to, 1, stay in it and work on it, or 2, leave?
Should I stay or should I go? What's the name of the person, Corey?
I got to answer the phone.
But you didn't tell me their name. All right. Okay, I don't know this person's name, but they want to know whether they're going to stay or go from their relationship. So I guess I'll have a go at tuning into them. The person who asked the question. So give me a moment. Okay, person whose name I don't know. I'm just taking a look at you and your relationship. And it looks to me like the classic sort of thing that's like you've grown apart. But what it actually seems to have happened is that you have a level of self-awareness and spiritual awareness, and that you're healing yourself and you've been working on yourself, and your partner hasn't. And so you've changed more than your partner has changed. It looks like your partner is stuck in their ways, and so that's what the issue is. And of course, should you stay or should you go? I would just say that your partner is, what's the word? Well, holding you back might be the way to say it. I'm seeing that the choice to stay is, it's almost like, think of, let's use this visual, like you were a helium balloon and you just wanted to be set free and soar high into the sky, and your partner's holding on to the helium balloon and keeping it weighed down on the ground. That's the visual that I got. And so, of course, people can change at any point in time. They always have the option to let go of the old ways and start healing themselves. But that's the current status of the energy that I'm seeing. So I hope that helps you, unknown person. I'm going to see who's on the phone lines now. And Corey should be putting that phone call through right now. Hello?
Hello, Leslie.
Oh, hello. How are you?
It's Susie. I'm good. I promise to not call every week. It's just the last few, but I promise I won't be the only person calling. I just wanted to just do a really quick check, because I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's the reproductive, the area.
Yeah.
The reproductive area. Yeah.
Yeah. Any updates since we last spoke?
Yes. I've gone through some energy work, 2 different sessions over 2 days. I've had a lot of work done in the area energetically. And it's definitely sensitive. So because when the energy flows through it, it actually makes it more sensitive. I find. And that's about as much as I can say at the moment without getting too wordy.
Yeah. Okay. So let's take a look. Well, I almost want to give you a little bit more of a healing also,
sure.
Because I think we've talked about this before, or different versions of this, like a little bar.
Yes.
So the little bar is back, or a bar is there again. I think I've seen it in different places, but I'm gonna.
I'm trying to figure out. It might be worth looking at if there's some kind of a being that's putting those bars there, or
that's a good point.
I feel like there's some interference going on.
That's a good point, isn't it? Because why does it keep coming back?
Yeah, and I've had that thought today that you might need to clear an entity or something.
Yeah, I'm going to take a look and see if there's sort of like a replicator machine or something in there that's spewing this out. So let's just see. Because this time it actually feels like it's going from ovary to ovary, which is a different place than it was before.
And I've seen that, by the way. I've seen that ovary to ovary one myself.
Have you? Okay. So let's just unclip it, and then I'll look and see if I can see like a replicator machine. And for listeners who think, what's this mumbo jumbo that you're talking about here? Sometimes other beings and entities it's almost like what should we say, like a sort of a spiritual booby trap, like a little device that it keeps making things that interfere with your energy. So I'm just moving that out from the ovaries, and I'm going to just scan and see if I can see
where it's coming from.
Well, I do want to move something off your crown chakra. There's some sort of vague box-like object on the crown chakra. So, and I feel like it is some kind of a device, and so let's just move it off. And it also seems like it somehow hooks into your thoughts and your thought patterns about this whole thing. So it sort of like wants to keep you stuck in.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're seeing that, because that's exactly what I was thinking. There's definitely, like, I even call them, well, long story short, but I have a suspicion there's something going on there.
Yeah, so let's see if move this off and see. Yeah. Huh. Okay, so now as I'm working on it, it's actually getting clearer, and it's almost like attached in a vice-like way to the top of your head. And it sort of reminds me of, if you strap somebody down in a dental chair and put a clamp round their head or something like that.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
I feel that something is not wanting me to move forward in this way. Like it's something.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll just keep working on it, and because wherever it's coming from, they're kind of sneaky I feel like it might be an out-of-body being.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll move the device off, and then I'll see if we can have a look at who it is and why they're doing it.
Sure.
Well, all that I'm getting is and I just see a sort of a shadowy character, like a shadowy cloaked character, and it sort of, it feels like it's about attention seeking. That I was sort of like asking, well, what's the payoff? What's the payoff of keeping you stuck? And attention seeking was what came up. And so let's just see. So we're actually working on your thought patterns in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm doing that, the energy of that entity is there. So, and I feel like I want to look, or maybe I'll do the energy work, and you just think about this. What might there have been in your childhood that made you want to find a way to get attention from adults, or
for me to get attention?
Well, this is it's the being that's sort of operating through you that wants the attention. But I just want you to look in your childhood and on the idea of seeking attention and see what you come up with, and I'll just keep working on this, clearing the energy out of your head while you see what you can locate.
Because I tend to be more of an escape artist. Let me just see here. Actually, the thing is, I tend to be more of a not seeking attention. At least not consciously.
If nothing comes up, don't worry about it. But But there's some payback that it's getting by keeping you stuck in this loop. Okay? And what happens when you're stuck in this loop is that you're forced to seek help and assistance.
That's right. That's what I'm doing.
And so it's something to do with that.
And it's, how is it getting a payoff for me seeking help? But I'm not sure. Or maybe we don't know. Like today I went for cranial sacral, ironically.
Oh, well, that's probably stirred it up, maybe.
And it was quite powerful. The session was very powerful.
Well, we do actually have another caller waiting on the line as well. So I'm going to do a little bit more, but then you might just want to follow up.
Yeah, maybe I can talk to you.
Yeah, because this looks like a longer piece, really.
Well, it's a good thing that I called. Okay, well, I'll call you, and then we can do one as well.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so I haven't cleaned it out completely, and I'm seeing that it's sort of focused around the center of your head. I cleaned off the crown, but there's also this energy is in the center of your head. So what we might want to do is just do a big clean out of all the chakras and everything of this being.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
I'll talk to you in shortly. Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
All right, listeners, we do have another caller, so let's find out who else is on the line. And see what their question's going to be about. Hello, caller. Who am I talking to?
Hi, Dr. Leslie.
Oh, I recognize that voice too. How can we help you?
I actually just had a quick question to ask you. And you probably got my email, but you know how my mind runs crazy sometimes. A couple of days ago when we had our session, remember I told you I was working on a manifestation to create something new?
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to move.
Yeah.
So I was looking into the different options, and there really are no other options if I want to stay in this field, because the other places I was looking at will not accept me without that certification we spoke about. So I just thought, like you said, things look brighter for me to move. So I decided that that's what I'm going to do. So my question to you is how, when you make a manifestation with one of your guides, because all four of mine were there, and then you find out midway that you have to make changes, does that confuse them? And how do you go about changing that manifestation?
So it doesn't confuse them. And how do you go about changing that manifestation? You can just use the techniques, the meditation techniques that you know to let go of the old manifestation, and use the techniques that you know to introduce the new manifestation. So kind of simple as that, really.
Because you remember with Hilda, she said that she was already starting working on creating that new manifestation, and when they already start.
Yeah, so she wanted to. She wanted to help you with your manifestation, and so it looks like her passion is manifestation, and so she can help you with whatever you want to manifest. So don't worry about that. We tend to sometimes superimpose two human characteristics on our guides, and they're pure spirit. They don't have the same ego and belief system programming that we do. Remember, they're not in physical reality. They're not in a physical body. They are pure consciousness. And so they've already caught up to you the moment that your mind shifts. So, I wouldn't worry too much about that. You can just communicate with them and say, "Hey guys, I've changed my mind."
That's happened a lot. They're probably schizophrenic now, as many times as I've changed my mind. But I think, I worked really hard to get here, and I think it's probably a reason why I'm meant to be here. So it's probably better for me to just move. So I started looking. So I wanted to check in with you. That's all.
Yeah. So that all makes sense. Great.
There's other stuff, but I'll write you. Thank you, Dr. Leslie.
Oh, you're welcome. Bye for now.
Enjoy your holiday season as well.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Okay, well, we're going to go to a break quickly, and we'll probably have time for one or two email questions. Hello everyone, welcome back to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie. The phone lines are really busy this evening because we actually have got another caller. So I am just going to wave to Corey to put the call through, and we will get to our last question of the evening. So excited to find out who this is and what their question is. Hello, caller.
Hello, doctor. I just have a question. A relationship question. I've been married for a couple of years, and I have sort of emotional challenges with my wife, sort of little battles that we run through. And I'm wondering how, if there's some way to improve this situation.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Are you and your wife open to learning to meditate at all?
She's from the Philippines. She doesn't spend a lot of time thinking about that. I've been pretty busy at work, so my meditation is not as strong as it should be lately. I've been sort of driving a long ways to work and whatnot, so it hasn't, I really haven't spent much time meditating.
Okay. well, let me take a look.
Okay.
Let me just take a look and see what I see energetically about your relationship and see what we can come up with to help you.
Okay.
So I'm just going to tune into you now and take a look. See, are you familiar with the chakras?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm seeing happening between you and your wife is a lot of push and pull at the level of the second chakra. And I'm actually seeing that you're courting each other. So when you're going through these emotional challenges, you're sort of almost sort of trying to control each other on an emotional level, and energetically courting each other at the second chakra, and I'm seeing that's it's uncomfortable for both of you, because when that happens, you're experiencing her emotions in your space, and she's experiencing her your emotions in her space. And whenever you've got someone else's emotions and energy in your space, that's when you get into that feeling of emotional overwhelm, like it's too much to cope with.
Yeah.
Just your own emotions in your own body, then that's fine, right? But once you add someone else's energy into the mix, it's just and then people, that's when people get out of control, because it's crazy making. And so so that's what's happening. And so it's how not to do that. And so let's see. And of course, are you a regular listener to the show?
I catch it sometimes.
Have you?
But usually I'm home, but today I was coming home late and I caught it just by accident.
Yeah. So have you heard me talk about grounding and centering and those techniques?
I've heard of that before.
So I teach some, so lots of people teach things called grounding and centering, so it might not necessarily be the same one that I teach, but you might want to send me an email afterwards and I'll give you a link to a free meditation. So just send an email to info@drlesliephillips.com and I'll respond to it. Because if only one of you is willing to participate in making a shift, you can still do it, because, so even if she's not open to meditation, if you change your energy in a way, that could naturally create a shift in hers. So what I'm seeing you want to do is somehow, stop this dynamic of hooking into each other and trying to control each other on the emotional level. And so number one is an awareness that it's happening, and number two is gosh, there's a lot of things. It is, let's see, if you learn to ground and center, which is these meditation techniques I will send you, it will help you stay in your own space, and it will help you at least not to be trying to control her. You might still experience some of her energy coming at you, but the grounding will help you diffuse and let go of her energy, and the centering will help you be neutral. Centering is a really powerful technique, and you can do it while you're meditating or not. And what you do is you place your conscious awareness in the very center of your head where your pineal gland is. And what that actually does for you is it puts you into neutral. where you're out of judgment and you're in acceptance. And you're able to see things from a spiritual perspective and raise your consciousness above the emotional games that people play. And so I'm seeing that if you can heal yourself and work on yourself so that you're able to be neutral and you're able to be grounded, then then you're not resisting her, and there's less of a place for her energy to land. And then that creates a shift.
So how do you communicate with people? Like, we got into an argument today where I just said, there was an article from work called the drop sheet. So when we paint, we put this down on the floor. So I took it home for washing, and my wife just kept leaving it without washing it. So after 3 days, I said, well, you better wash this. And then she got really mad at me and wrote me a big email saying I'm a bad person and all this stuff, and that she wanted to commit suicide and all kinds of stuff. And it started over something small, and I didn't say anything back. Mind you, she didn't want me to say anything back. She just hung up the phone on me and just sent me 2 emails. So it was kind of way overblown. But I see what you're saying. I got to approach things in a...
Be neutral.
You know...
But let me take a look at her and why... We've got like about 2 minutes left, but I'll take a look and see what I can see in the time we have left. What's her extended family situation? Does she have other family members that are sort of big in her life?
No, nobody's here, but she's very close to her mother in the Philippines and her brothers and sisters. She's got a younger brother, but she's very close to her mother, and we just have a newborn baby here, but she doesn't have any close relatives.
Right, oh, you have a newborn baby, okay.
Yeah, 3 months old.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, she does look like she's having a really tough time, and she does look like, she looks quite sort of invaded energetically, or her energy doesn't look very focused and clear and present. So you know, it may be that her mum's affecting her a lot, and it may be that she's going through some stuff because of because of just having had a baby as well, and feeling overwhelmed with that.
She is a little bit overwhelmed because the baby is kind of, you know, wants attention, and she's not used to taking care of a young one like that. And she's from an environment where there was always more.
Thank you for joining us. You've been listening to another Unlocking Your Truth podcast by Dr. Leslie Phillips. For more information, go to our website at drlesleyphillips.com. That's drlesleyphillips.com, where you can ask questions or send her an email, and there's many free gifts on there for you as well. Come back again.